So it feels like the book has no respect for any woman whatsoever. And the same goes for men, I think. But if they're gay, it's fine. Okay, I'm moving. And since I do so, I try to get rid of some books that annoyed me last year. But because I promised to review some of them before I burn them, I'm not burning them. Anyway, this is The Coincidence of Callie and Kayden, and I try to keep it short, so I have some points on my laptop. Okay, spoiler warning, and probably trigger warning as well, even though the book didn't have one, and I feel like it should have had. Okay, so I didn't think that The Coincidence of Callie and Kayden was a very good book. It's basically the same shit as always. Am I allowed to say that word? Well, I thought it was a shitty love story. Because we have so many tropes that are repeated constantly in nowadays literature, or romance literature at least, and it's so annoying. Back to my notes. Yeah, that's gonna be a long video. My first point is the title. I'm gonna be picky. The title is The Coincidence of Callie and Kayden, but I feel like it's not a coincidence. Coincidence sounds like it's, oh well, that happened, and look how unusual that was, and what good came out of it. But it's really not. I mean, you wrote that story in the way that it is, but I feel like it's very unrealistic that this would actually happen the way it happened in the book. It's just another angsty not teenage, they're going to college, another angsty college-aged love story. So the short premise is that he's beaten up by his dad his whole life, basically. And she is the victim of sexual assault and even rape, I think. And then those two meet and fall in love unconditionally. So basically, they both are made for each other because he was beaten up and she was raped, so they're both victims of assault. And I don't know, but if you're a victim of assault, you can still date whoever you want. You don't need to find somebody who shares your triggers and your trauma, because you still have any right in the world to pick anyone you fall in love with, but they need to consent. Just saying. I kind of thought that I might still like it because it was promising things, and it really didn't live up to that. So my second point is that Kayden, who is our male love interest and who has nothing going for him apart from his abs, but this is a trope that is used so often in romantic fiction that it's not even a point anymore, because it's really hard finding books with an interesting love interest who has like a character and feelings and normal thoughts, like stuff going for him. other than his appearance. And this annoys me so much. Anyway, my second point is that he is clearly too self-aware. Sometimes he would be drunk, for example. And then when he gets sober or sober-ish, he would reflect on his actions to tell us that he needs to drink because his life is so bad. I feel like this is the author not being sure if we would understand if she's not telling us straight to our faces. So it's like, you have this story and it's okay, and you're kind of reading it even though you're not totally convinced, but then she's breaking the fourth wall in a very weird way, and he tells us, oh yeah, well, now that I'm sober again, I only cope with my life when I'm drinking. First, it totally kicks you out of the story, like you just started reading and it was hard enough to start because it's a bad book, and then he just pulls you out again. Like, my notes say, if you're not sure your readers get it, maybe write another story or another character, but that's quite mean because maybe it's not her fault. So I'm not sure if I would say that write another story, like, yeah, write another story, like a better story, but I also know that so many people loved that book, so maybe it's just me. Yeah, just moving on. The third point, don't leave me. The third point is that he's an asshole. So he has this girlfriend, which I think he doesn't call her a girlfriend. They're just like sex buddies, which she doesn't know. And he's constantly like slut-shaming her for sleeping with him. It's so weird. Like, it's not even incel behavior or something because he gets laid. If you don't want them to sleep with you, maybe stop sleeping with them. I don't know, that might be a way. But I feel like I hate that trope so much because it always feels like the author is so very insecure that she feels the constant need to put down other women around her. Apparently that's what we're into now, all the readers of romance books. We just love the hot guys without any personality or characteristics apart from money and appearance. And even though they're horrible to every other girl, when they meet us, it's finally true love and they change. So I think that's the thing that's so appealing to everybody. I don't know, it's really weird. So she is this trope of shy little, in this case anxious girl, because she's so traumatized by this one incident that happened when she was like, I don't know, 12 or 13. And that's not me saying your trauma wasn't big enough to still be traumatized by it, but the fact that it's so big of a deal, like throughout the whole book until the last 20 pages or something. And then she meets him, well, she meets him before that, but she meets him and then they sleep together for the first time, and she's a bit reserved because she's still traumatized, but he kind of fucks her sane. And I'm sorry for phrasing it that way, but that's basically how it is. It's not love, but it never is it? He is obsessing over her body and over her damsel in distress behavior. Last point. She has this gay best friend, and he is like the only character with character in the whole book, and I really liked him. And she is able to sleep in a bed with him because he's gay. So it's not like her trauma, she's like scared of anybody, especially guys, but she can sleep in a bed with her gay best friend. I think, well, trauma is different for everybody, of course, but I feel like the stuff that would trigger you at night if you are sleeping close to someone would be the way that he's bigger than you and maybe shaped in that. Let's not go there. But I think what I want to say is that your body probably does not make a difference, and you feel like somebody's next to you and that somebody is feeling more male than female. Even female, I think it could trigger you even then, but I think it's just very stupid. I feel like the author wrote both male characters and then was like, oh my gosh, Seth is so much better of a love interest because he's interesting and nice and funny and he has actually personality. But I planned for Kayden to be the love interest, so I just make him gay. It would be so embarrassing if his name wasn't Seth. Let me just look that up.
A few minutes later.
Oh yeah, and I haven't found out his name, but I read the blurb, and so she was 12 and she was assaulted, which is the saddest thing ever. And it says that 6 years later she's still fighting with that big secret and stuff. And then she meets Kayden and saves him from his worst enemy, which turns out to be his dad. And then it needs to point out that he wants to pursue the beautiful Katie now. Kelly. What's her name? Callie and Kayden. Callie. What the hell? So why does she need to be beautiful? I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody is beautiful, but why do you need to point that out? Like, just imagine. It would be the same story, but he would not be a football player and he would not be like good looking and have abs. So if he wouldn't have all those shallow things going for him, and she would be very like not attractive in a society kind of way, don't you think that would be a really bad story? Like, just because they're beautiful it doesn't save the story. It might be in erotica. So I think, well, Jenna made a video on that and she said that in erotic fiction it's fine if the characters are described as good looking because it's basically all about the looks and you don't want to imagine two not handsome people doing it. But that's not an erotic book. It should not be an erotic book. She was raped. That's not something you should fetishize about. Anyway, not saying that this book does. I am pretty sure that book doesn't do anything. It's not. I think it doesn't know what its purpose is. But yeah, Callie and Kayden. I'm really not good in ratings. Sometimes I just want to give them 1 star, and then there's another book that was far worse, but in another way, and I would give that book 1 star, and then it feels unjustified for them both having 1 star. So I don't know. I'd say I wasn't constantly like screaming in my pillow while reading it. I think maybe 2 stars, but maybe not, because it's not a good book. Maybe 1.5, so in between that, I don't know. Usually, if you take books like 50 Shades of Grey or Twilight or whatever, then the excuse for them being abusive, stalkerish assholes is that they are either rich or good looking or a vampire. But this time, he's neither. Well, yeah, I guess he's good looking in the sense that she takes a lot of time describing his abs and that, but I feel like... So what I'm saying is they try to pull the pity card here. So he was abused. I'm not excusing that or something. It's very, very bad. Like, if you have that relationship to your family, I'm very, very sorry, and you should get rid of them, even though they're your family. But still, that does not excuse the way you behave around people, I think, is what I'm trying to say.